Here's a truth almost no one realizes until it's too late. In every room, every conversation, every opportunity, the person who talks the most is rarely the person who holds the most power. Real influence belongs to the one who knows when not to speak. But most people never learn this. They talk because they're uncomfortable with silence. They talk because they're afraid of being misunderstood. They talk because they think filling the air will make people pay attention. But here's the fear of missing out. The world doesn't reward noise. It rewards presence. Quiet influence is a rare skill, and the few who master it end up leading rooms while everyone else is trying to dominate them. Look around your own life for a moment. How many opportunities slipped by because you said too much instead of the right thing? How many arguments escalated because you kept explaining instead of letting silence speak for you? How often did you lose respect because you reacted too quickly instead of responding with intention? Most people don't lose influence because they're wrong. They lose it because they talk past the moment when their words had weight. And while they're busy talking, the quiet, observant, intentional person, the one who speaks less but means more, becomes the one everyone listens to. Here's the FOMO. Only a tiny percentage of people ever learn how to create impact with fewer words. Everyone else keeps talking, keeps explaining, keeps trying to be heard, while the quiet, controlled communicator becomes the one who holds authority without raising their voice. Quiet influence isn't about saying nothing. It's about saying what matters and letting your presence carry the rest. This audiobook will teach you that art, how to command attention, shape conversations, and lead with clarity without ever needing to be the loudest in the room. Most people will talk their entire life and still never be heard. But you're here, which means you're ready to become the person who can speak less and impact more. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Power of Quiet Influence. Welcome to the first chapter of Speak Less and Impact More, Quiet Influence. Most people believe influence is about volume, charisma, or being the loudest voice in the room. They think persuasion requires energy, drama, or dominance. But the truth is the exact opposite. Real influence often comes from the quiet, deliberate, and intentional. From those who speak only when it matters, from those who listen more than they talk, from those who understand people, emotions, and context before acting. Quiet influence is subtle yet powerful. It doesn't demand attention, it commands respect. It doesn't shout to be heard, it makes people want to listen. It doesn't rely on force, it shifts minds and actions naturally. This chapter is about recognizing the power you already have, even if you are naturally reserved. It's about understanding why speaking less can actually allow you to impact more. Consider the difference between noise and signal. Noise grabs attention. It distracts, overwhelms, and irritates. Signal penetrates, it resonates. It changes decisions and moves people. Most people spend their lives producing noise. They think that volume equals influence. They fill space with words, stories, and opinions, believing that if they just talk long enough, someone will listen. But quiet influencers understand this. The fewer words I use, the greater their impact. They choose carefully what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. They use silence as a tool. They leverage pauses, tone, and timing. Influence is not measured by how loud you are, but by how much your words move people to think or act. Let's break down why quiet influence is more effective than loud influence. Number 1. Listening first, speaking second. Quiet influencers listen more than they speak. They understand others' needs, motivations, and emotions. They gather insights that loud speakers miss. They respond in ways that feel tailored, thoughtful, and persuasive. Most people fail to influence because they speak before understanding. Quiet influence works because it's informed, precise, and empathetic. Think of a manager who interrupts constantly versus a manager who listens carefully, asks questions, and then responds. Who gains genuine respect? The one who listens, not the one who dominates. Number two, silence is a tool. Silence can be more persuasive than words. A well-placed pause adds weight to your message. Silence encourages reflection in the listener. Silence signals confidence. You don't need to fill space to prove value. In negotiations, remaining silent after making an offer often compels the other party to respond, sometimes giving more than you expected. Silence creates space for influence to grow. Number three, words carry more power when used sparingly. When you speak less, your words matter more. Every word becomes deliberate. Every sentence carries weight. Every message becomes memorable. Noise dilutes influence. Precision amplifies it. A leader who says, "We will deliver results," once with confidence, commands more respect than one who repeats similar statements over and over. Number four, observational intelligence. Quiet influencers excel at observing body language, tone, and reactions. They notice subtle cues others miss. They adapt their approach in real time. They act strategically rather than react impulsively. Observational intelligence allows you to respond with maximum effect. You influence without needing volume. Now let's move from theory to practice. Here, is how you can start developing quiet influence immediately. First, an active listening exercise. In your next conversation, focus entirely on listening. Avoid interrupting, giving advice, or sharing your opinion immediately. After the other person finishes, pause for 3 seconds before responding. Then respond with a thoughtful, concise contribution that truly adds value. You are training yourself to observe, understand, and respond deliberately. Second, the pause technique. Whenever you speak, practice pausing before your key point. Count to 2 silently, then speak your message. Your words will feel more intentional, authoritative, and confident. Third, word economy. Challenge yourself to express ideas in fewer than 50 words. Remove filler words like like, or you know. Focus on clarity, precision, and impact. Every word should serve a purpose. Fourth, an observation journal. Each day, observe one person, a colleague, friend, or stranger. Notice their tone, body language, and gestures. Notice moments where they influence others quietly. Ask yourself what made their words impactful. You're learning from real-world examples of quiet influence. Fifth, silence practice. During meetings or conversations, allow yourself to be comfortable with silence. Resist the urge to fill every pause. Let others speak. Let space exist. This builds presence and helps your voice carry weight without forcing it. Pause now and reflect on these questions. Where in my life do I speak too much, diluting my influence? How can I practice listening more and speaking less this week? What situations make me uncomfortable with silence, and why? Which conversations could benefit from more thoughtful, deliberate words? How can I use observation to understand others better before influencing them? Quiet influence begins with awareness. The more you observe, pause, and choose your words, the stronger your impact will become. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, make sure to subscribe. It helps us create more content like this for you. Now let's continue. Chapter 2. The Art of Strategic Speech in Chapter 1, we explored the foundation of quiet influence, listening, observing, and valuing silence. Now it's time to take the next step, speaking with strategy. Quiet influence isn't just about holding back your words. It's about choosing the right words at the right time. Every word, tone, and pause can either increase your influence or dilute it. This chapter will teach you how to speak deliberately, persuasively, and confidently without ever shouting or forcing attention. Most people approach communication with quantity over quality. They believe influence comes from talking more, explaining more, repeating more. They believe their voice must dominate every room to be heard. But influence is not about sound. It's about effect. Strategic speech is the ability to make people think, make people act, and make people respect you. You do this without speaking unnecessarily, without losing authenticity, without over-explaining. Think of your words as arrows. When fired aimlessly, they scatter, hit nothing, and lose their power. When fired with precision, they reach the target, make impact, and create change. This chapter is about making every word count. There are 5 core principles that define strategic speech. Number 1, intentionality. Every word you speak should have a purpose. Are you informing, persuading, inspiring, motivating, correcting, challenging? If your words don't serve your purpose, they are wasted energy. Instead of saying, "I think we should try a different approach," you might say, "Here's a strategy that will increase results. Let's implement it." One is vague, the other is precise, confident, and intentional. Number 2, selective expression. Not every thought needs to be shared. Speak only when it adds value. Avoid sharing opinions that do not serve your purpose. Don't comment on every situation. Silence increases respect. Random commentary decreases it. In meetings, leaders who interject only when necessary are often more respected than those who speak every few minutes. Number 3, understatement. Strategic speech often works best when it understates the obvious. Understatement creates intrigue. It draws attention to your next words. It signals confidence. You don't need exaggeration to be persuasive. Instead of saying, "I am the best at this and have done countless projects," you might say, "I've worked on similar projects before. Here's what I found works best." The impact is subtle yet stronger. Number 4, rhythm and pace. How you speak is as important as what you speak. A slow, deliberate pace signals confidence. Strategic pauses emphasize key points. A varied but controlled tone keeps attention without forcing volume. A single pause before your main point gives your audience a moment to anticipate and focus. Your words land with weight, not noise. Number 5, contextual adaptation. Strategic speakers adapt their language and delivery to the audience. Understand who you are speaking to. Match your tone, words, and timing to their needs. Adjust your level of detail depending on the listener's experience and expertise. Influence is not one size fits all. It is a customized, deliberate interaction. Now let's turn these principles into daily habits. First, the 3-step message. When speaking, structure your ideas in 3 steps. State the purpose, give supporting evidence, and state the action. For example, the goal is to improve results. Our data shows these patterns. Therefore, I recommend this approach. This method ensures clarity, brevity, and impact. Practice it in meetings, texts, or emails until it becomes natural. Second, pause before responding. Before responding to questions, challenges, or discussions, take a brief pause. Think about your purpose. Respond only with what advances your goal. This builds authority and prevents reactive or unnecessary speech. Third, the word economy challenge. Each day, take a topic you would usually speak at length about and reduce your explanation to 50 words or less. Ensure the message is complete, clear, and persuasive. This develops precision. Fourth, observe strategic speakers. Watch leaders and communicators you respect. Notice how they pace themselves, how they use pauses, how they choose words. Notice when silence is used effectively. Apply what you observe to your own speech. Fifth, record and review. When possible, record your presentations or important conversations. Listen for filler words, unnecessary repetition, and reactive speech. Then make conscious corrections next time. This builds self-awareness. Sixth, the questioning technique. Strategic influence isn't just about speaking. It's about guiding thought through questions. Ask open-ended questions that encourage reflection. Lead conversations subtly toward your intended outcome. Allow others to feel they arrived at the idea themselves. Instead of saying, "We need to implement this now," you might ask, "What do you think would be the most effective way to achieve these results?" The answer often leads exactly where you wanted to go. Pause and consider these questions. Where do I speak without intention? And how can I reduce unnecessary words? How can I use pauses more effectively in conversations? Which people or situations would respond better to subtle influence rather than direct statements? What daily exercises will help me speak less but impact more? How can I observe and learn from others who master quiet influence? Strategic speech is not natural for most people, but it is trainable. Every deliberate word increases your authority, credibility, and influence. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, make sure to subscribe. It helps us create more content like this for you. Now let's continue. Chapter 3. The Psychology of Listening. Welcome to Chapter 3. If Chapters 1 and 2 focused on silence and strategic speech, this chapter focuses on the secret weapon of quiet influence, listening. Most people underestimate listening. They think it's passive. They believe influence requires speaking, persuading, or dominating conversation. But in reality, listening is active influence in its purest form. When done correctly, listening makes people feel seen, heard, and understood, and that connection is the foundation of influence. Quiet influencers use listening to gain critical insights, build trust, understand motivations, adapt their approach, and lead others subtly without overt control. This chapter is about mastering listening as a psychological tool, learning to hear what is unsaid and turning understanding into influence. Imagine two leaders. One speaks constantly, dominates conversations, and pushes his ideas relentlessly. The other speaks rarely, asks questions thoughtfully, and listens intently. Who inspires loyalty, compliance, and trust? The second leader. Influence isn't about who talks more, it's about who understands more. Listening is the gateway to strategic thinking, problem solving, and emotional mastery. It allows you to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. It gives you control without force. Quiet influence begins with listening first and speaking second. This chapter will show you how. Listening is not simply hearing words. It is a structured, intentional, analytical process that transforms information into influence. There are 5 psychological principles that make listening a powerful tool. First, active versus passive listening. Most people engage in passive listening. They nod without focus. They think about their response instead of the speaker. They multitask while the other person talks. Quiet influencers use active listening. They give full attention to the speaker. They observe tone, inflection, and body language. They process information before forming a response. They validate the speaker subtly without interrupting. Active listening signals respect, builds trust, and makes people more open to influence. Second, the power of empathy. Listening with empathy allows you to understand the emotions behind words. People remember how you made them feel, not just what you said. Empathetic listening creates psychological safety, making others more receptive to your ideas. Influence grows when others feel understood. Instead of dismissing a team member's concerns about a project, you might say, "I see why you feel overwhelmed. Let's break it down together." That simple act strengthens trust and positions you as a thoughtful authority. Third, reading between the lines. Words are only part of the message. Tone, pace, hesitation, and body language reveal hidden thoughts and intentions. A pause before a sentence may indicate uncertainty. Avoiding eye contact may signal discomfort or disagreement. Subtle gestures often reveal priorities, biases, or hidden concerns. Quiet influencers notice these signals and adapt their strategy accordingly. Fourth, the mirror effect. Mirroring speech patterns, tone, or body language subtly builds rapport. Humans instinctively trust those who reflect them. Mirroring must be subtle to avoid feeling unnatural, but when combined with active listening, it makes your words far more persuasive. If a colleague speaks slowly and thoughtfully, matching their pace shows attentiveness and empathy, making them more receptive. Fifth, the silence trap. People often rush to fill silence. Quiet influencers embrace it. Silence after a statement allows the other person to process. Silence can reveal additional information as others feel compelled to keep talking. Silence signals confidence and self-control. This psychological mastery of silence and listening is what separates loud talkers from quiet influencers. Now let's train the listening mind. First, the full attention exercise. In your next conversation, give 100% of your attention to the speaker. No phones, no distractions, no interruptions. Focus on tone, pauses, and gestures as much as words. Afterward, summarize their key points in your mind or in writing. You're building awareness of verbal and nonverbal cues. Second, the empathy reflection. During each conversation, silently ask yourself, how does this person feel? Why do they feel this way? What outcome are they hoping for? Respond based on understanding, not assumptions. You're turning emotional awareness into influence. Third, silence and response. After someone speaks, wait 3 seconds before responding. Use this pause to process content, read nonverbal cues, and choose your words carefully. Fourth, observational practice. Observe conversations around you in public spaces or meetings. Note body language, tone, and pauses. Predict reactions and outcomes based on what you see. You are training predictive and adaptive listening skills. Fifth, mirroring. In a conversation, subtly match the other person's pace of speech, tone, and natural gestures. Do it gently and authentically. This builds subconscious rapport and increases your influence without a single extra word. Sixth, reflective note-taking. After each important conversation, write down keywords spoken, emotional cues you noticed, unsaid messages you sensed, and how you could respond more strategically next time. This creates a feedback loop for mastering listening and influence. Take a moment to reflect. When do I listen actively, and when do I drift into passive listening? How can I better understand the emotions behind words in my conversations? Which nonverbal cues have I been missing that could give me influence? Where can I practice silence to allow others to reveal more? How can I subtly mirror others to build rapport without appearing fake? Mastering listening is not just a skill, it is a superpower for influence. Chapter 4. Emotional Intelligence, the Quiet Influencer's Edge. Welcome to Chapter 4. By now, you've learned the power of silence, strategic speech, and listening. But influence isn't just about what you say or how you hear. It's about understanding and managing emotions, both your own and others. Emotional intelligence is the secret weapon of quiet influence. It allows you to navigate complex social dynamics, respond calmly under pressure, and guide others without coercion. People with high emotional intelligence don't dominate conversations through volume. They dominate situations through understanding, empathy, and self-control. They influence subtly but decisively, creating trust, loyalty, and cooperation wherever they go. This chapter will teach you how to harness emotional intelligence to amplify your quiet influence. Consider the difference between two leaders in a high-stress scenario. One panics, raises their voice, and demands compliance. The other stays calm, listens, and addresses concerns with empathy and clarity. Who inspires action, respect, and loyalty? The calm leader. Influence is less about authority and more about emotional mastery. When you understand emotions, you can predict reactions, guide decisions, and manage conflicts more easily. Quiet influence grows from emotional intelligence because it allows you to act intentionally rather than react impulsively. Emotional intelligence can be broken down into 5 actionable components. First, self-awareness. You cannot influence effectively if you don't understand your own emotions. Notice triggers that provoke anger, anxiety, or defensiveness. Recognize how your mood affects your communication. Understand your strengths, weaknesses, and habitual patterns. Before responding to a difficult colleague, ask yourself, am I reacting emotionally or responding strategically? This self-awareness prevents impulsive reactions that weaken your influence. Second, self-regulation. Once you're aware, you must manage your emotions deliberately. Pause before reacting. Breathe, center yourself, and respond with calm authority. Avoid escalating conflicts unnecessarily. Self-regulation allows you to maintain composure and project confidence, even in tense situations. It communicates strength without needing to be loud. Third, motivation. Emotionally intelligent influencers are intrinsically motivated, not swayed by ego or external approval. They set clear intentions for influence, helping others, solving problems, leading effectively. They stay focused on outcomes, not on appearing dominant. They let purpose guide their actions, not fear or insecurity. Motivation rooted in values and goals enhances authenticity, and authenticity is highly persuasive. Fourth, empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and feel the emotions of others. Listen for underlying concerns. Observe nonverbal cues. Validate emotions before offering solutions. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," an empathetic approach sounds like, "I understand your concern. Here's another way to look at it." Empathy builds trust and lowers resistance, allowing influence to flow naturally. Fifth, Social skills. Emotional intelligence shows up through social skills, building rapport, resolving conflicts, guiding discussions, and persuading subtly. These skills allow quiet influencers to lead without formal authority, inspire without pressure, and create alignment without confrontation. Now let's turn emotional intelligence into practice. First, an emotional awareness journal. Each day record situations that triggered strong emotions. Note your reactions and evaluate them objectively. Ask, how could I have responded more strategically? You're strengthening self-awareness and emotional control. Second, the pause and respond method. When triggered, pause for a few seconds before responding. Take deep breaths to calm your body and mind. Then respond thoughtfully, not reactively. You're building self-regulation under pressure. Third, empathy practice. During conversations, consciously focus on the speaker's feelings. Ask clarifying questions like, how does that make you feel? Or what concerns you most about this? Reflect their emotions back to them. It sounds like you're frustrated, or it seems you're worried about the outcome. Fourth, motivation alignment. List your personal and professional goals. Identify how each conversation, decision, or action can support those goals. Avoid reacting strongly to situations that do not serve your purpose. You're making your influence intentional and purpose-driven. Fifth, social skills training. Engage in low-stakes social interactions daily. Practice mirroring, pacing, and thoughtful questioning. Observe how people respond and adapt your approach over time. You're building rapport and influence naturally. Sixth, observing emotion in others. Watch discussions in meetings, social gatherings, or even online. Note emotional cues, frustration, excitement, hesitation. Predict likely reactions and outcomes. Reflect on how a quiet influencer would respond in that situation. You're sharpening your predictive and adaptive influence skills. Reflect on these questions. Which emotions do I struggle to control, and how do they impact my influence? Where can I pause before reacting to gain more strategic advantage? How often do I genuinely try to understand others' emotions before responding? Which conversations or situations challenge my empathy, and how can I improve? How can I align my influence with my values and purpose rather than external validation? Emotional intelligence is not innate. It's a practice that compounds over time, turning quiet influence into a natural, unstoppable force. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, make sure to subscribe. It helps us create more content like this for you. Now, let's continue. Chapter 5. Influence in Action, Applying Quiet Power. Welcome to Chapter 5. By now, you've learned the foundational principles of quiet influence: silence, strategic speech, listening, and emotional intelligence. Now it's time to apply these tools in real-life situations, both high stakes and everyday interactions. Quiet influence isn't theoretical. It works in meetings, negotiations, presentations, leadership, networking, and personal relationships. This chapter will show you how to execute influence with precision, so that your words and actions have maximum effect while you stay authentic and composed. Most people fail at influence because they try too hard, speak too much, or push too aggressively. They confuse volume with power. Quiet influence, on the other hand, is measured, deliberate, and aware of context. Influence is a skill, not an accident. It's the result of knowing when to speak, knowing what to say, knowing how to act, and reading the room before moving. When applied correctly, Quiet influence allows you to shape decisions, inspire action, and earn respect, all without raising your voice or forcing authority. Let's break down the principles that allow quiet influence to be applied effectively. First, lead from behind. Quiet influencers often lead without being overtly in charge. They guide discussions subtly. They highlight others' contributions. They encourage collaboration while gently steering outcomes. In a team meeting, instead of saying, "Do it my way," a quiet influencer might say, "These are great suggestions. How about combining your approach with this adjustment? What do you think?" Influence happens without direct command. Second, the power of questions. Influence often comes from asking the right questions, not from making statements. Open-ended questions guide thought. Questions create reflection and buy-in. They allow others to feel ownership of decisions. Instead of directing, we need to implement this strategy, you might ask. What approach do you think would deliver the best results for this challenge? When people arrive at a conclusion themselves, they are more committed to it. Third, consistent presence. Influence grows through consistency and reliability, not just flashes of brilliance. Show up prepared. Demonstrate calm and confidence under pressure. Maintain integrity and follow through on commitments. People naturally defer to those who are stable, predictable, and competent, even if they rarely dominate conversation. Fourth, nonverbal command. Influence is as much physical as verbal. Maintain good posture, steady eye contact, and controlled gestures. Use subtle facial expressions to convey understanding. Let your presence communicate authority and calm confidence. During a tense negotiation, a composed stance and measured nods can communicate far more than aggressive persuasion. Fifth, timing and patience. Influence is often about waiting for the right moment. Speak or act when it will have the greatest impact. Avoid forcing outcomes prematurely. Observe reactions and adapt. Patience ensures your influence lands strategically, not impulsively. Now let's apply quiet influence in practice. First, a meeting strategy. At your next meeting, set a goal. Speak only when you can truly add value. Listen actively to all contributions. When you speak, use strategic speech, precision, empathy, and timing. Aim to influence outcomes without dominating the conversation. Second, negotiation with silence. In your next negotiation, after stating your proposal, pause, allow silence. Observe reactions and body language. Only add clarification if it's really needed. Use patience and observation to create psychological pressure and foster agreement naturally. Third, guiding decisions through questions. Frame decisions as questions. Ask, what solution would work best here? Or how can we improve this process effectively? Listen, validate, and then gently guide toward the optimal outcome. People feel empowered while you still influence the direction. Fourth, daily presence practice. Throughout your day, focus on your posture, tone, and calm demeanor. Practice walking into rooms with awareness of your presence. Notice how others react. Adjust your nonverbal signals without changing who you are. You're strengthening nonverbal influence. Fifth, observe and reflect. Each day, note situations where influence was needed, at work, at home, or socially. Ask yourself, what worked? What could I improve? How did timing, words, or silence affect the outcome? You're creating a feedback loop for continuous improvement. Sixth, personal relationships. Quiet influence isn't limited to professional settings. In your personal conversations, practice empathy, listening, and strategic speech. Avoid over-explaining or dominating discussions. Use questions to encourage others to open up and reflect. You'll influence naturally while strengthening emotional connections. Consider these questions to internalize practical influence. Where can I apply strategic speech to influence outcomes today? How can I use silence and patience to strengthen my influence in conversations? Which nonverbal cues can I improve to project calm confidence? Where can I guide decisions through questions rather than directives? How can I observe and adapt to others' emotional states to increase my influence? Influence is a skill honed over time. Every interaction is an opportunity to practice and strengthen your quiet power. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, make sure to subscribe. It helps us create more content like this for you. Now let's continue. Chapter 6. Mastering Quiet Influence. Your path forward. Welcome to the final chapter of Speak Less and Impact More. Quiet Influence. You've now explored the full spectrum of quiet influence. The power of silence, strategic speech, active listening, emotional intelligence, and real-world application. This chapter is about integration, taking all these lessons and turning them into a cohesive, actionable approach that transforms how you interact, lead, and impact the world around you. Influence is not a one-time skill. It is a lifestyle, a mindset, and a series of deliberate actions that compound over time. By mastering quiet influence, you gain the ability to inspire, lead, and guide without force, volume, or aggression. Consider this. The most powerful leaders, negotiators, and influencers often speak less than those around them, yet command far more attention, respect, and loyalty. Why? Because they listen before they speak. They act with intention and precision. They understand emotions. They respond strategically. They lead subtly, not overtly. Quiet influence is not passive. It is deliberate, calculated, and impactful. Let's integrate the key principles of quiet influence. First, silence as strategy. Silence is not emptiness. It is space for reflection, thought, and impact. Use pauses to let your words resonate. Allow others to speak and reveal insights before you respond. By embracing silence, you amplify your presence and create influence without saying more than necessary. Second, strategic speech. Every word should have a purpose. Speak clearly, concisely, and intentionally. Use rhythm, tone, and pacing to reinforce your message. Strategic speech makes your influence precise, memorable, and persuasive. Third, active listening and empathy. Listen to understand, not just to reply. Observe body language, tone, and emotional cues. Respond thoughtfully, acknowledging both words and feelings. When combined with strategic speech, listening allows you to guide conversations naturally, ensuring buy-in and alignment. Fourth, emotional intelligence. Manage your own emotions to remain composed under pressure. Recognize and validate others' emotions to build trust. Align your influence with your values and motivation. Emotional intelligence turns influence into a sustainable relational skill rather than a one-time tactic. Fifth, application in action. Influence is most powerful when practiced consistently in everyday life. Apply these principles in meetings, negotiations, leadership, social interactions, and personal relationships. Observe outcomes, reflect, and refine your approach. Every interaction is a training ground for mastery. Here is how to turn these lessons into a daily practice. First, a daily quiet influence check. At the end of each day, reflect on your conversations. Did I listen before speaking? Were my words intentional? Did I observe emotional cues? Note where you did well and where you can improve. Second, the silence and pause exercise. Practice deliberate pauses in conversations and meetings. Allow space for others to think and respond. Notice how much more your words land when not rushed. Third, a strategic speech drill. Each day, summarize an idea or plan in 50 words or less. Focus on clarity, impact, and precision. You're building concise, authoritative communication. Fourth, a listening and observation journal. Record key observations from your day, tones, gestures, emotional reactions. Reflect on how you could respond even more strategically next time. You're developing adaptive influence. Fifth, emotional intelligence practice. Identify your emotional triggers and practice self-regulation. When you feel triggered, pause, breathe, and respond deliberately. Align your actions with your core values and long-term goals. Sixth, an influence in action challenge. Each week, pick a scenario to practice quiet influence. A meeting, a negotiation, a social gathering, or a personal discussion. Apply all principles: silence, strategic speech, listening, empathy, emotional intelligence. Reflect on the results and adjust. Take a moment to reflect. How can I integrate silence, speech, listening, and emotional intelligence into my daily interactions? Where can I improve my influence without increasing volume or force? How will I measure my progress in applying quiet influence? Which situations this week provide the best opportunity to practice these skills? How can I maintain authenticity while increasing my impact? Mastery comes from consistent reflection, deliberate action, and refinement. Quiet influence is not about being invisible. It's about being intentional, strategic, and emotionally intelligent. It's about letting your presence, words, and actions carry weight without shouting for attention. By integrating the lessons of this audiobook, you now have the tools to command respect effortlessly, guide decisions subtly, inspire loyalty and trust, and lead with composure, empathy, and purpose. Remember, influence is a lifelong practice. Every interaction is an opportunity to apply your skills, grow your confidence, and refine your impact. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to speak endlessly. You only need to speak wisely, act intentionally, and influence powerfully. Quiet influence is your edge, and now it's yours to wield. If this audiobook is bringing you value, make sure to subscribe. It helps us create more content like this for you. Now take what you've learned and apply it. Your influence starts today. Outro: embrace your quiet power. Congratulations. You've completed Speak Less and Impact More, Quiet Influence. You now understand the power of silence, the precision of strategic speech, the depth of active listening, the leverage of emotional intelligence, and the practical application of influence in every area of your life. But knowledge alone is not enough. Quiet influence is earned through practice, reflection, and intentional action. Ask yourself, how will I apply these principles today? Which interactions in my life provide the best opportunity to practice quiet influence? How can I refine my presence, my words, and my emotional awareness to have the greatest impact? Your journey doesn't end here. Every conversation, every meeting, every decision is a chance to speak less, observe more, and influence effectively. Remember, silence is your ally. It amplifies presence. Words are your tools. Choose them carefully. Listening is your superpower. It reveals what is truly important. Emotional intelligence is your edge. It allows influence without force. Action is your proof. Consistently applying these principles solidifies your quiet power. As you move forward, embrace the art of subtle mastery. Lead with calm confidence. Inspire without dominance. Influence without aggression. You are no longer just another voice in the crowd. You are a quiet force to be reckoned with, capable of guiding, inspiring, and transforming every interaction you engage in. Go forward, speak less, impact more, and let your quiet influence change the world around you. If you found value in this audiobook, make sure to subscribe and share it with someone who could benefit from mastering quiet influence. Every small step you take today will compound into remarkable influence tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Now, go out and make your presence felt, quietly, powerfully, and intentionally.